Skywatch Media News for the first week of February 2018. Hello, folks. Something quite extraordinary is happening with volcanoes worldwide. For every week of the year in 2017, there were between 14 and 27 eruptions, and the rate and ferocity of the eruptions is showing no signs of slowing in 2018. One of the volcanoes that is showing signs of catastrophic eruption is Mount Mayon in the Philippines, where tall ash clouds and half-mile-high lava fountains have forced the evacuation of more than 82,000 villagers who live in its path. Volcanologists have now placed the volcano on alert level 4 out of 5, which indicates that a hazardous eruption could be imminent. The signs of danger are there to be seen. At this very moment, lava fountains and ash plumes are reaching more than 1,600 feet above the crater in a spectacular display. At the same time, the volcano is experiencing dangerous pyroclastic flows, which are avalanches of extremely hot volcanic ash and rocks that quickly descend from the volcano, sometimes at speeds of hundreds of miles per hour. It is the same pyroclastic flows that buried the city of Pompeii, Italy, killing many who could not escape its sudden surge. There is probable cause to believe that the Mayon volcano could in fact become very explosive in the course of its volatility. If pressure builds up within the volcano, then the composition of the magma could change. If the magma becomes thicker, then the likelihood of an explosive eruption becomes greater as trapped gas tries to escape the chamber. If eruptions become more explosive, then the greater the chance of large ash plumes and more pyroclastic flows. In 1814, the Mayon volcano saw its most deadly eruption, in which ash was propelled some 11 miles into the stratosphere. Mayon demonstrated a Plinian blast, the largest and most violent type of eruption, that partly destroyed the historical Kagsawa Church. Plinian-type eruptions can produce ashfalls, lava bombs, and volcanic rocks slung miles away from a volcano. Eventually, much of the ash will end up in rivers, creating enormous mudslides called lahars, which pick up everything in their path: rocks, trees, and houses. When the debris piles up at the base of the volcano, it creates another concern in the manner of a landslide from heavy rainstorms. The flow of volcanic debris can be very disruptive in its journey towards the ocean. When Mount Pinatubo erupted violently in 1991, there were 10 years' worth of mud flows in its wake. So even for Mount Mayon, the dangers of lahars are an imminent concern in the long term. In the Philippines, there is an ancient myth that involves a young couple, a woman named Mayon, which means beautiful, who attempted to run away with her warrior lover in order to escape an unwanted suitor. Tragically, the attempted escape failed, and both the young woman and her lover met their demise at the hands of a ruling father and his tribesmen. It is said in the native folklore that their spirits can be found near the Mayon volcano, which so happens to be a Philippine landmark. Now it seems that the legend has been revived. A January 18th eruption at the volcano stunned many locals when an eerie image of ash cloud formations surrounding the volcano appeared to resemble two lovers embracing one another. The image went viral on social media and sparked a lot of debate on whether this particular formation is renewing the legend, which many believe shows a strange similarity to the tragic tale of two lovers. But there seems to be more to the tale than the recent image that went viral. This video also appears to be showing a face in the ash cloud formation. Look carefully, and you may see the face moving in the dust for a short moment. Sometimes there are messages hidden in the signs, which may come in many forms and shapes. Some may call it a manifestation, and others just a coincidence. And yet it can be said that what was seen by the locals at the base of the Mayon volcano was not by mistake, but rather by design. Mexico's Seismic and Volcanic Alert Center, CENAPRED, is warning people not to approach the Popocatépetl volcano due to the extreme danger of falling ballistic rock fragments following another eruption. A strong explosion occurred on January 30th, throwing ash nearly 2 miles into the atmosphere above the volcanic peak. Ashfall was expected to hit communities in the vicinity of the volcano. A total of 4 explosions and 4 volcano-tectonic earthquakes were registered on January 30th. The United States is currently experiencing enhanced seismic activity. In the last week of January, there have been a total of 742 smaller earthquakes that have struck both California and Nevada. In addition, a 4.9 earthquake struck off the coast of Oregon north of the Gorda Ridge, followed by 2 smaller tremors. Meanwhile, Kodiak, Alaska also continues to be the location of ongoing seismic activity, following a huge 8.2 quake in the region within the last week, which was then downgraded by the USGS. Monitoring these earthquakes has become especially important since they are indicative of pressure building within the tectonic fault lines that may forewarn of something much bigger developing as the tremors continue to increase in intensity across this region of the country. A powerful 6.1 magnitude earthquake struck northern Afghanistan on January 31st, sending frightened people rushing from their homes and shops into the streets of Kabul and creating seismic tremors in Pakistan and India. Across the border in Pakistan, similar scenes played out in Islamabad, where homes, offices, and schools were quickly evacuated. Tremors were also felt in the Indian capital of New Delhi. The people of Afghanistan are vulnerable to seismic activity because their government has done very little to implement a program of disaster preparedness. There is quite a bit of chatter on the internet and across social media about whether the full moon or a super blue moon may be responsible for a rash of extreme weather events and earth-changing events that have taken place in the first weeks of 2018. Although there is little evidence that supermoons can affect the movement of the Earth, it is universally accepted that full moons can affect the ocean tides. If you accept the mainstream media explanation, then you may believe that the supermoon will cause all of these chaotic events. But one can also argue that these events have been occurring for some time now, and therefore may have little to do with the gravitational pull of the moon. What is happening these days seems to have become a way of life for many. In parts of New England and along the south shores of Massachusetts, yet another brutal winter storm brought snow, rain, and winds, leading to a storm surge and more flooding to an area that was already reeling from the bomb storm called Grayson during the first few days of 2018. If the full moon was responsible for the tidal surge and flooding that was photographed in New England, as some in the media would have you believe, then one can only imagine what the blue moon will do in the days that follow. The weather is no doubt becoming more chaotic with each passing day. It is quickly reaching the point where weather norms will no longer exist. In Kazakhstan, the temperature became extremely frigid when the thermometer dropped to minus 68 degrees, stopping animals in their tracks as they froze solid. The average January temperatures in Kazakhstan ranged from 14 degrees in the northwest sector to minus 15 near the border with China. making this event highly unusual. January. For the first time in more than half a century, heavy snowfall paralyzed the North African country of Morocco in late January. Southern Morocco suffered unprecedented road conditions as exceptional amounts of snow fell after decades of extremely dry weather in this region. The National Meteorological Director blamed the strange weather event on the influence of a very low pressure system over the country. An unnamed tropical low hit the Kimberley coast of Western Australia, devastating its northern region. It brought record-breaking 5-day rainfall to the region, making this January its wettest month in recorded history. Weather authorities have instructed the media and all residents to heed severe weather warnings and begin taking them seriously, warning them that these weather events are now falling into unprecedented territory. The unnamed cyclone dropped more than 17 inches of rain within 24 hours, bringing the total rainfall to this region to 27 inches for the month of January, a new record for this region. On the opposite side of the Australian continent, tens of thousands of homes in the state of Victoria were left without power as soaring temperatures crippled the state's electricity network. The temperature in Melbourne peaked at 38 degrees Celsius or 101 degrees Fahrenheit. The hot weather caused many residents to turn to electric fans and air conditioning units to cool down. This triggered a surge in demand, with some parts of Victoria setting all-time electricity demand records. The blackouts were not confined to Melbourne. Thousands of residents in the west of the state and on the Mornington Peninsula were also hit. The extreme heat also took its toll on Melbourne's transit network, where the tarmac melted on some roads and where rail lines buckled in some areas around the city of Melbourne. While the weather continues to intensify and become more extreme, there is the concern that the power grids of the industrialized nations will begin to fail, leading to the increased risk of major blackouts across the globe, many of which could be long-lasting. Since the year 2000, extreme weather has been a steady source of major power outages across the world. As it turns out, the United States infrastructure is in disarray. It is in desperate need of major improvements, especially when it comes to the electrical grid. Virtually every business and institution depends on computer-generated technology to keep things organized and running smoothly. Without power, everything, including food supplies and fuel, would come to a complete standstill for months, maybe even years. Therefore, anyone who relies on power-generated technology would need to be prepared for long-duration power outages. This type of event is all too plausible, which we see play out in movies and documentaries, and which can be implemented by organized groups that desire to do great harm. The biggest question that arises from this type of scenario is why the federal government has been so slow or lacks the initiative to pass infrastructure legislation. What is the actual reason for failing to address this important issue? Some believe it has to do with something unimaginable that is expected to occur in our immediate future, therefore eliminating any urgency to repair the nation's infrastructure. If we focus our attention on the most important events in the United States and around the world, we would develop a much better sense of how our planet is changing, giving us a head start on preparing ourselves for the changes that are unfolding. This is what I have attempted to convey to the channel viewers who watch our video presentations. Many of our viewers are now paying much closer attention to the earth changes because they know and understand that we live in a time of trouble and uncertainty. The Hopi nation was well aware of the inflictions that would come upon the world if humanity was unwilling to heed the warnings that have been manifest in both words and actions. They spoke of these warnings in explicit detail while addressing the United Nations General Assembly in the latter part of the 20th century. The implications are as meaningful today as they were back then. As we observe the sky in motion, we must give wonder to the many bewildering sights that are there for us to take notice. At first glance, this image may seem as if it were taken from a scene in a science fiction movie, or from a page in a novel about an alien sun on a desolate planet. And yet, to everyone's surprise, this is just another day on planet Earth, an image taken from the wonders of the Antarctic continent. It's a place that few of us will have the privilege of visiting in our lifetime, which is why it may seem so alien. The image was captured near the South Pole by a photojournalist on a recent trip to Antarctica. The phenomenon is known as a sundog or a perihelion, and it happens when there are hexagonal ice crystals in the air, which refract light so that it appears there are two smaller suns flanking the real sun. But in this instance, there is really only one sun in the sky. When crystals are more vertical, they create a halo around the original sun. And so, at this exact moment, the atmosphere was alive, and Antarctica was putting on a spectacular light show for its visitors. And so, my friends, keep looking to the sky, for there are many heavenly sights to behold for those who have eyes to see.